Hey, this is Lauren, host of the Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. Please take a second, hit the follow button wherever you're listening, and leave a review if it's an option on your platform. I'm joined today by Rod Khleif, a multiple business owner and philanthropist who is passionate about business, high performance, real estate, and giving back. Rod soared from humble beginnings as a young, impoverished Dutch immigrant to incredible success. Rod brings authenticity and insight to his approach to business, mindset, real estate, success, and life. Looking for a mortgage for a new home purchase? Look no further than Jasmine Mortgage Team. Jasmine Mortgage Team is licensed nationwide with competitive rates, excellent customer service, and has a solid reputation amongst homebuyers, real estate agents, and financial advisors. Head on over to jasminemortgageteam.com and tell them Lauren from Adulting is Easy sent you. That's jasminemortgageteam.com. So Rod, thanks for joining me. Our goal for today is to make adulting a bit easier for the listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since money is a big part of adulting. So today, let's talk about how to find the drive to crush it in real estate. And probably a good place to start, Rod, is with how you got into it and a little bit about your story.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Lauren. I'm looking forward to having some fun with you today. Well, let's see. I'm going to go way back because I think it'll add credibility and really value to the conversation we're planning to have here. So I'm an immigrant. I immigrated from the Netherlands when I was 6 years old. Think wooden shoes and windmills. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado. I immigrated with my brother Albert and my mother's Vantja. And when we got here, we really struggled. I remember eating expired food, shopping at an expired food store because that's all we could afford, drinking powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which, trust me, sounds better than it is. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I finally got disgusted and lied about my age at Burger King when I was 14 so I could buy my own clothes. And then when I was 15, able to buy a car. And I'm sure you've got listeners that have had it harder than I did, maybe even have it harder now, but I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat and have a decent life. And she was a bit of an entrepreneur with her babysitting money. So she actually invested in the stock market, IPOs successfully, and this is without any formal education. She also invested in real estate. And her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from us when I was 14 that she bought from a family that we knew for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that had gone up in value $20,000. And I'm like, what? You made 20 grand? You didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I literally went out and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I wasn't just an agent. I was a broker. You could do it back then with education. Now they got smart. To be a broker, you actually have to have some experience. But I was a broker right when I turned 18. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in, 1980, was pretty decent money. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. He was another broker, and I was actually dating his daughter. And I was smart enough to realize I needed to be in somebody else's office, not start my own at that time. And he started the conversation about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical stuff we talk about on our podcasts here. It's the do and it's the keep doing. It's the pushing through fear and limiting beliefs to go take action. It's getting outside of comfort. The comfort zone's a warm place, and we both know nothing grows there. So, fast forward to today. I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term. I've owned thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. And, when that happens, God or the universe will sometimes give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008. I lost everything. I lost $50 million conservatively in 2008. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast and at my boot camps and training and with my students is the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place. And then maybe as importantly, maybe even more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from losing $50 million. So happy to drill down on that with you, Lauren.
The real estate god thing sticks
I
out to
thought I
me.
was. Yeah, right.
Well, I think
Yeah.
and because we're heading, I'm in my 30s. A lot of my compadres, if you will, a lot of people my age, my contemporaries, they have experienced basically a bull run in stocks and real estate and a lot of times crypto. Crypto is obviously a lot more volatile. And we're experiencing now in 2022 our first sort of dose of reality that not everything goes up. And I think that that's something that people are going through right now. We all thought we were geniuses, probably. Like, look, I'm so good at investing. Look at these stocks I picked. Look at this real estate I picked, right? So I love that you said that. And I love that you're humble enough to recognize that because I think a lot of people are going through that right now.
Oh, I saw people literally crying on social media, losing millions of dollars in crypto. Stock market's been crushed. It's lost, what, 30, 40%? I mean, you know, the thing that I love about real estate is even after the big crash in 2008 and 9, particularly multifamily real estate. So, what's interesting is when I lost everything in 2008, it was my single family that pulled me down. I had 800 houses and I had several apartment complexes, the houses that pulled me down. And I wasn't over leveraged at all. I was only at a 30% loan to value. But what's interesting is my multifamily did just fine through that crash. If I hadn't cross collateralized my apartment complexes with packages of houses, I still own those apartment complexes. And that's why I started my podcast 6 years ago, was to tell people that story is, if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family for a whole lot of reasons. And so, it's kind of funny. I used to say early on in my podcast, I'll never sell you anything. I just want to add value. That was the truth. And now I'm a liar because I have boot camps and coaching and everything else. But, I never planned to. You want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. But anyway, we are definitely headed into a reckoning. I'm a lot more bearish than other people, maybe because of what I went through. But, I got to tell you, Warren Buffett says it's going to be a bigger crash. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, says it's going to be a huge crash. Elon Musk even says it's going to be a big crash and that it's needed. But is it a time to be scared? No. In my opinion, it's time to get super excited. I will tell you, in the last year, with my current partner, I've only bought one asset, 296 units in San Antonio. And it was a very conservative deal. I mean, we broke even day one at 59% occupied. It's even much better than that now. But, we'd be in the best and final round on offers, where they kind of do like an auction process on these larger apartment complexes. And I'm like scratching my head. It traded for what? It sold for what? Are you kidding me? And there's going to be a lot of skinny deals that are going to have problems in my world, the commercial multifamily world. Again, not a time to get scared, time to get excited. Like, I'm in a lot of cash right now, but the beautiful thing about multifamily is it takes cash, but it doesn't have to be your own cash. And so, there's a lot of money still looking for a home that got, killed in the stock market or crypto, like you said. And so, it's an important time to, for me to be pre-framing our investors, to not be fearful, because there's already a lot of fear out there. And, I love Warren Buffett's quote, be fearful when others are greedy. There's been a lot of greed these last couple of years, crazy deals, crazy purchase prices, very skinny deals, dangerous deals, operators that have never been through a crash, with no operating reserves, for example, or, claiming that they're going to be able to double the rents year one. I'm like, really? Yeah, no, I don't think so. And so, been a lot of greed, but the second part of that quote, of be fearful when others are greedy, is be, greedy when others are fearful, and the fear has already come.
I love that distinction where you can be bearish but not scared. I think a lot of people think that those two, or conflate them and think that you have to be kind of both at the same time.
Right.
Can you talk to me a little more about recovering from 2008 and what that
Sure.
was like?
Sure. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I was blessed to have been exposed. I mean, people killed themselves for losing that much or less, even in 2008 and 9. And then, of course, the Great Depression, comparatively losing less than what I lost. They jumped off buildings. But, luckily, there were several factors that helped me. The first one is my realization that I had to reassociate with what I wanted and why I wanted it. So, like, I've got a boot camp coming up the end of July in Denver. It's the only live one I do each year. And if you come, the first hour is goal setting on steroids. That's because how the heck do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You've got to know what you want with clarity. And so that's the first hour of the hour and a half, really, of my boot camp. You've got to create what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls it a burning desire. You got to want it. so that you push through the fear, you push through the limiting beliefs, you get uncomfortable to go, grind for a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And you've got to, and it starts with knowing what it is you want and why you want it. So when I lost everything in 2008, Lauren, I reassociated with what I wanted. It would have been very easy for me to focus on the pain. And I'm not going to lie and tell you I didn't for a while. I sure did. But I didn't, pain is going to happen, but suffering is optional. Okay. And I chose not to just be a sufferer. So, I focused on what I wanted. I reassociated with what I wanted. So the goals are a critical piece. And I can share a resource. If you can't come to my boot camp at the end of July, I did this goal setting workshop on New Year's Day this year. I do it every year around the 1st. And it's on a website. You can download it for free. There's a guide. If you go to rodslinks.com, both words plural, rodslinks.com, at the bottom is my goal setting guide and it's workshop with music, professionally done. And, here's the sad thing, Lauren, most people spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. And that goal setting workshop will help you design your life. You should do it with your spouse, do it with your kids if they're over, say, 10 years old. Super powerful. So again, rodslinks.com. But so the first thing is knowing what you want and why you want it. And then the other thing is you've got to make a decision. And, the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. If you're going to burn, if you're going to go attack an island, you're going to burn your ships because you're taking their ships home. It's done. When you make a decision, it is freaking done. You've cut off all opportunity for escape. And so, and sometimes that decision can be the biggest decision of your life. Maybe it's to learn real estate, or maybe it's to try another, vehicle for, to capitalize and thrive through this recession that's coming. But whatever it is, you got to decide and not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean, it's freaking done. So that's the next step. Then after that, you've got to take that first step. Okay. And sometimes that can be the hardest step you've ever taken. But, Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you've got to take that step. And, a lot of people are analytical and they get caught in analysis by paralysis. And so if that's you listening, what I would tell you is just realize that you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlights only seeing 50 feet in front of you. And you can make it because other people have made it. You might have obstacles, but you'll be able to overcome the obstacles. It's the same way with your goals in anything. If you apply yourself, but you've got to take that first step. You will not see the whole road. And so, a lot of analytical people have to check off every single box before they make a move. Don't let that happen to you if that's you, because you'll never take action. So take that first step. And then, it is super important that you play to your strengths, especially in my world, the multifamily real estate space, because, it's a team sport in my world. It's not something you're going to do on your own, for sure. And there are a lot of different hats you can wear in the multifamily apartment business. You can be the outgoing person that builds relationships. You can be the analytical person that does the underwriting. You can be maybe a process-driven person that does the asset management. And there's other hats as well. But you need to be playing to your strengths. Why? Because first of all, you're going to love it if you do. Work will be play. You'll never work another day in your life. And if you're playing to your strengths and you have other people, so what I tell you people is play to your strengths and hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. And when you do that, success is inevitable if everyone's playing to their strengths. But when you're playing to your strengths, you're going to be passionate. And in our business, and this really pretty much any business, you're going to have to influence people. And if you're passionate, it's so much easier to influence people because they can see it, they can feel it. And so, play to your strengths. But then, another piece of this is your focus. If you're listening to this, if you're listening to Lauren, you're a leader. You're already a leader. Even if it's just your family, you're a leader. There's no question you've got leadership written all over you. And right now, more than ever, the world needs leaders. I mean, don't get me started on the political environment and the crap they're putting out on the fake news. You've got to right now really stand guard at your mind and just bring in the good stuff. I'll scan the headlines, but don't live there, because whatever you focus on gets bigger, both positive or negative. They asked Mother Teresa when she was alive if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. It's kind of the same thing, but it's not, right? I get people that call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money that the debt's irrelevant? Because again, what you focus on gets larger. So the most successful people on the planet have the most honed and developed focus. So I get excited because, my podcast is just broke 13 million downloads. And, I don't listen to too many shows. I listen to Tim Ferriss and I listen to Joe Rogan. So I get both sides of the aisle. I try to be balanced. And Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in the world and the best athletes, Michael Phelps, for example, the best actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Jamie Foxx, billionaires like Ray Dalio, the biggest CEOs of the biggest companies in the world. And he kind of deconstructs their path to success. And I started to hear a pattern, Lauren. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So focus is super critical. And I'll do one more, and then we can bounce back and forth a little if you like. So the last one I'll talk about right now is peer group. When I was losing everything in 2008 and 9, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. Okay, it's a mastermind, and now I host my own mastermind because I so believe in the power of them. But that back then cost about 130 grand. I think it's 3 times that now. But there were people in that group in 2008, 9 that were thriving. They were killing it. And they're like, get up, you big puss, 50 million schmillion, go make it happen. Stop whining. That's who you want to be around, right? You want to be around people that want more out of life. See, what's sad is people will default to a peer group that they went to school with or that they work with. And sometimes those people, out of their fear or out of their limiting beliefs or maybe their fear of losing you, or maybe their fear of feeling less than if you succeed, they can hold you back. And sometimes it's family. So I will tell you, choose your family, love your family, but choose your peers proactively. Get around people that want more out of life, that aren't afraid of your dreams and aren't going to, derail your dreams. And that's why, these boot camps like mine are so powerful, because you're around people that want more. So if you can't make to Denver in July, the end of July, it's the last 3 days of July, the 29th, 30th, 31st. If you can't make it, then go to your local groups in your town. Go to a meetup group. Meet other people that are motivated, that aren't going to be afraid of what you want to do, and surround yourself with them.
Basically, those steps for the right mindset for investing in real estate, first, you got to know your why, for sure. Right?
Goals,
That's the only thing that can get you through those hard times. It's the only thing. And real estate, in some ways it's simple, but it's really never easy. Right. And I love how you said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And that's true. If you look at anything that happens to you in real estate, you can react negatively, or you can be like, this is all part of the game, and you can just handle it. 2, make a decision. I love that. I've always thought of myself as a pretty decisive person. Once I make a decision, it just kind of is what it is. I'm doing it one way or another, right? And
right.
Does it lead to maybe some mistakes? Sure. But I'm going to come out ahead because I took action rather than if I didn't do any of it. 3, take a step. That's huge. I love like Bigger Pockets, the books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, all those things. You can read all of that. You can listen to every podcast, but you actually have to take a step. And with that step comes that confidence, knowing that you can do it, right? At first, when you take that first step, like you said, Rod, you've got to know that other people have done it. And so you can probably do it. Once you do it 1 or twice, you can. You don't have to know that other people did it. You know that you're the one that can do it. And then
let me elaborate on that. Let me elaborate on that piece for just a second. In the real estate business, there's the kind of the law of the first deal. I see it with my students. That first deal, it might take 6 months, 8 months, even a year sometimes. And sometimes they're bemoaning, and I get them back on track. But then they get that deal, and the next thing I know, they have 4. I'm like, what the heck just happened? And so there is that as well. But I wanted to mention one other thing, and that is, so many people fear failure. I call them seminars when a business fails. And I've built 27 businesses in my career. I counted them a while back. I'm like, holy cow, that's 27. And several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular, flaming seminars, okay, failures. And, we fail our way to success, Lauren. And they are seminars. As an entrepreneur, we're like a shark. We only die if we stop swimming. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, just a beautiful human being. She started with $5,000, and I think she just sold it for several billion. The women's, what Spanx are. But anyway, so she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother about a weekly basis, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what a freaking awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. Anyway, I just want to interject that real quick.
No, I love that. I love that. And I
Mm.
think you're so right. There is this law with the first deal where I think it's definitely the hardest. And if you can push through that, I think basically future ones are somewhat inevitable. To continue with my summary, play to your strengths. Love that. I feel like when I was a kid, I'm like a millennial, right? I'm like the participation trophy bunch and all these things. And they also had this idea of like, I feel like I was told this as a kid, here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses, get better at your weaknesses. And I love this shift that we are seeing where it's like, get better at your strengths and get other people around you for your weaknesses. I love that. And also something that I love, I'm in sales. I've become like a pretty high level person when I'm in sales. My husband's an engineer. If I need a spreadsheet, I ask him to do it, right? Because he's good
Right.
at that. If there's a contract, I'm like, can you read this? Because you read code all day, right? That's just a small example, but instead of me getting better at reading code, reading contracts, I can ask him to do it.
No, I mean, my partnerships have always been. My last partner was a CBA. We bought, I don't know, almost 4,000 doors together. And then my current partner, super analytical. You can lock him in a room with a spreadsheet and just throw raw meat in from time to time, and he's happy. So and it's a perfect. I will tell you, in my business, the multifamily real estate business, the most successful partnerships I see, and I've seen dozens of them, is an analytical person with an outgoing person, just like you. So. It's a match, that's a match for success right there. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then your last point about the peer group. This is huge. We've heard it before, right? You're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with and things like that. But what's really cool, I think, what you can do on like social media and stuff is you can find these people all over the world. And I know Twitter can be a cesspool and sometimes, right? But I have found a group of people there that I can like throw ideas back and forth and they help me to also think bigger, right? So that's huge too. I wanted to ask you, Rod, we've talked a lot about the type of mindset that you need to invest in real estate, right? And I love this idea of you have to overcome fear, you have to overcome your limiting beliefs.
let me, can I elaborate on
Yeah.
that for two
Yeah.
seconds? Okay. Limiting beliefs. So when I immigrated this country, I was 6 years old, and I got thrown into school, didn't speak English. And I found out what bullies were for the first time. I, got my butt kicked on occasion and hadn't learned to fight back yet. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got another butt kicking. And then the bullies would sometimes chase me home, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter, thinking she was helping. And of course, the next day, butt kicking. And so I came up with this belief that I wasn't good enough, and that belief system. And I used to ask myself the question, how can I show them I'm good enough? And a lot of people have these limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have enough time. Listen, there's a reason that the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99.9% of them are BS. But if you have one that you're consciously aware of, sometimes you're not aware of it, but if you're consciously aware of it, pull it into the daylight when it pops up. Look at it with your adult rational mind consciously. You can't just overlook this. You got to do this consciously. I mean, I used to be terrified that I'd get selected in class to answer a question. Now I speak literally in front of thousands of people a year. And so, what I did was I just looked at it. I recognized that it was BS. No one would reject me if they knew me. If they did, it was their own BS going on. But if you have one of those, do that. And I promise you, it will ultimately go away. But you got to do it. It's not going to happen the first time. But if you take the time to look at it and look at it through your adult lens, you'll see that it's BS and it will slowly dissipate and go away. So I just wanted to throw that in on that one.
No, that's perfect. And that's actually a good transition to my next question. Is there anybody that shouldn't invest in real estate?
Oh, someone that likes to dabble in things, that's not going to learn the business, someone that's not going to, apply themselves. Even if you're going to invest passively, learn the freaking business. Come to my boot camp. In fact, let me tell you how you can come real quick. So if you don't mind, let me just mention, because I'll give your peeps a heck of a deal. Right now the price is double this, but if you text Rod to 72345 and then use the code Rodfriend, you can come for $197 for 3 days of real estate training. And it's not a sales pitch. It's training. It's drinking through a fire hose. But when I tell you, opportunity is coming. Opportunity is coming if you get up to speed, like right now. If you dabble, forget it. You're not. And if you try to learn it in the thick of this recession, it's going to be too late because you got to build the relationships. You've got to understand the business. So, you can go to rodindenver.com, or like I say, text Rod to 72345. It's 3 full days of training, $197. It's truly a no-brainer if you're interested in this business. Just remember the code Rodfriend. And if you have any trouble, just DM me on any social channel and we'll get you taken care of. Because like I said, the price is double that now. And it even includes some awesome bonuses. But the point is, if you're not interested in really making that decision and deciding that this is what you're going to do, then don't bother, because, there's a good bit to learn, but everybody starts where you are. If you're just getting started, just remember that, but you can't dabble. So that's really the only response I have to that. And, if you do happen to come to my boot camp, you will laugh, you will cry. It's not like your typical real estate boot camp. I spent a lot of time on mindset, and that's why my students are so freaking successful. I mean, they somewhere over, I think over 70,000 units that my coaching students now own. And I've been teaching less than 5 years. I'm super proud of that. And so, it's because of the mindset. They take action. So
you're probably not going to dabble in real estate. And if people dabble in real estate, you're not convicted to it, then you will get out at the first sign of adversity.
Or you'll have a seminar.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have a seminar, and what you learn from that seminar will be, I don't like real estate, I'm never doing that again. Right. So,
right.
I love the seminar thing. I always call it like life tuition. That's what mistakes are. So we've talked a lot about advice for young people, but I was wondering if you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Any other advice for people that want to get started?
Listen. Don't be in the same place you are a year from now unless you absolutely freaking love where you are right now. Pick a vehicle. If it's real estate, for God's sakes, do whatever you can to come out and see me in Denver. If it's not, pick a vehicle that you want to pick something you enjoy. Like, if you don't love the thought of real estate now, you can learn to love anything. You can associate pleasure with it. I call it, pretend you're hunting for buried treasure. But if you can't learn to love it, for God's sakes, go do something else. Life is too freaking short. So figure out what you think you'd love doing, take action with it, test it, but don't dabble. I mean, go all in. And, I've got students in their early 20s that are killing it, multi-million-dollar portfolios, because they took action. And me, when I was in my 20s, I bought millions of dollars worth of property where the partners put up all the money and we just split them 50-50. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't, I killed it. And again, so it's all about action. So it's all the things I talked about, getting clear on what you want, the focus, making a decision, taking that first step, massive freaking action, getting around people that want more. And don't forget gratitude. Gratitude is the most powerful emotion we have. If you're going to, when you're manifesting things in your life, I'll sit on this recliner behind my green screen here and I'll just do gratitude. I'll think about my, beautiful supermodel, beautiful wife, more beautiful on the inside than the outside. I'll think about her, my kids, my coaching students, my foundation, and I'll just be grateful. But then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want, my goals, as if I already have them. And sometimes I get emotional getting grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know I lost some of you analytical ones on that, but I'm here to tell you, this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got it back. So, call it prayer if you want, but you got to use it, and you've got to associate with these things that you want consistently. And you literally bring them into your life. There's something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And it's that subconscious filter that your brain, it also filters out all the noise, but it points you in the direction it thinks you're interested in. The greatest example is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them, and then you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Yeah, of course they were after you bought it. But that's your reticular activating system. And, I've used this process to get all the things that I thought were important, the Lamborghinis, the Rolls Royces, the Bentleys, the Range Rovers, and, $8 million house on the beach. All this stuff that I thought was important at one time that I got through this visualization. And again, please don't be turned off by that. That wasn't ego. I just wanted to, hopefully inspire you young people to what's possible if you do these things that I'm talking about here, because they absolutely work. So I don't know if that helped.
Very, very powerful. And I think that's a good point about, I think some people, they're like, I don't like rich people. I don't this, I don't that. But I think the big difference in a mindset shift that absolutely has to occur is you need to be able to almost have empathy for people who are rich, be able to see yourself in their shoes, be able to see yourself there, right? Be able to see yourself in these. There are people that just have nicer cars, nicer houses, right? You have to decide and you have to think, I can have that, but I
Well,
have to
you
take
have
some
to
steps.
decide. Yeah, you
Yeah.
absolutely have to make that decision. And if you do look at wealthy people like that, you need to look in the mirror and see why you're doing that. Now, if you've got other interests, maybe you're an environmentalist, whatever, no problem. So replace the goals that I had when I was a stupid kid with whatever goals you have. Don't be turned off by the fact that I was materialistic. I'm not anymore. I mean, I've fed 120,000 children over the last 22 years. I've done tens of thousands of backpacks to local schools, to kids that don't have basic supplies for school, tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments or officers to keep in a vehicle if they encounter a child that's been traumatized. And there's a message in that, by the way, especially for you young guys that are women that are listening to this. We've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like we can't be happy until we've achieved. Well, if you give back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. Tony, and I know that's a play on words, but it's an important one. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. If you want to learn multifamily real estate, get your butt to my boot camp or start listening to my podcast. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I know you'll love it. I mean, like I said, 13 million downloads, 700 episodes. That's a science. You just have to take action with what you learn, achievement. But fulfillment is an art. Okay, you've got to find what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe in your example, Lauren, it's somewhat, maybe it's the environment for you. Maybe it's animals for you. Maybe it's the elderly. Whatever it is, you need to incorporate that into your life right now and give back in some fashion. And if you're saying, yeah, I'll do it when I have money, no, do it right now, even if it's just your time. Please, if you don't get anything else out of this interview, get that. Give back in some fashion right now. There you go.
I can't follow that up with anything. So we've talked about your boot camp. We've talked about the podcast. And I know
Yeah,
you said you're
thanks.
on social media. Do you want to give people your social media
Yeah.
handles real quick?
Well, listen, if you go to rodslinks.com, that's a link tree, and it's got all my social there. I'm on even TikTok now. They got me on freaking TikTok. And like I told you before we started, Lauren, I can't even spell TikTok. Couldn't 4 months ago. But go on Rod's Links. It's got my goal setting thing there, like I talked about. It's got free books, free articles. It's got my bootcamp website on there too, my personal website, which has a ton of free stuff too. So there's a lot of free literature there and free resources, articles, videos. So Rod's Links, plural.com is a great place to just get tons of free stuff about this business if you're interested. And and if you want to come to Denver, just remember to use the code Rodfriend to get that $197 price for all 3 days. Come up and say hello and let me know you met me on Lauren's podcast here if you can make it. So
And I will put all that in the show notes as well.
thanks.
And guys, you can follow me on Twitter at adultingiseasy. You can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com. Let me know if there's any topics you want me to cover, any guests you think would be great. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, Rod and I have made adulting a little easier for you.